How's it going, everybody? Uh, sorry, I'm exhausted. So this is gonna be a real mini review of Think Like a Man was starring Taraji P Henson. I like the movie. First, starting off, I was like, this doesn't make any sense, and just watching a little bit of another movie with her in it. Sorry, it was called Proud Mary, and that was some movie I was greatly anticipating. Didn't turn out so well in my opinion. I only watched a little bit, and it was just from where it was going. I just was very disinterested, and also I got it from Redbox, so I guess I potentially dodged a bullet. I don't know. Watch this new movie. Think Like a Man, and I'm pretty sure. No, no, no. See, I keep getting it confused because she also started Think Like a Man with Steve Harvey's, based on Harvey's book. A comedian and talk show host of his own show and Family Feud, Steve Harvey. Um, but no, she has another movie which is essentially gender swap, and I believe it's BT Studios. Sorry, I'm very exhausted. I just played Gravity Falls 2, and it does a lot of uh, a lot of mental work because of how it's played for me. I get motion sickness at times, and it's mentally draining. So that movie was very taxing. In addition to is very close to my bedtime. In regards to the movie, uh, I like to think a slow start. Um, I like to think the the movie itself was okay. Um, I learned some stuff like some of these. It was some things that near the very end could have been implied. That's one of the things that I kind of am looking for is that there's more so messages. I think we're on a good road to better movies, especially better black theme movies. Um, but let's just say movies starring black people. I could say that, but more so black movies, black like movies with black directors with black themes and cultural black themes and stuff like that. Even though I'm pretty sure what women think isn't black itself. But given that, good movie. Our process is that she was you know, she gains these powers, she gains these abilities from this psychic with played by I am so sorry, Erica Badu, singer Erica Badu. Um Yeah, she's pretty funny. I guess when I first saw her in the trailers, it was just kind of like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. But it's funny because Erica Badu she doesn't take herself so seriously, and I always find that funny. And in this one, she just plays up the role. Of sorry, she plays up the role of the kooky doctor. There's other people in there like her best friends. It's like one of them's like this and it's a part of the story too. One of them's gonna be married. The other one's like this sanctified Christian female. And another one is like the crazy wild child of the group. Uh, um, they all are pretty interesting, especially the wild child of the group. I like to call because she has this comedic role, comedic timing that's pretty good. It sort of reminds me of Kevin Hart, but at the same time, it's like uniquely herself. She kind of reminds me of Tiffany Haddish slightly to the point where she just has that raw honesty. But apart from that, she comes across as funny to me, like just like comedic, like she could be a comedian playing as an actor. And I'm like, especially seeing other actors like Kevin Hart play. I haven't seen The Upside, definitely want to see it, but that looks pretty interesting. It looks um I think it's going to be great to see comedians in movies like Funny People with Adam Sandler. That was pretty interesting. Is it did like a loop. You know, it was like almost like the hero's journey, but it was like coming full circle in a sense. And even though they seemingly came back to the same place, like seemingly came back to the same place, they learned things along the way. So it's like the characters, although they look the same, they're not the same internally. Um, but apart from that, um, I was honestly expecting this movie not to be so good, to be like poorly timed, poor pacing, um, poor information relaying. There's times where it just kind of gives it to you blunt. There's sometimes just a lot of uh, relaying information. That was one thing I was a little afraid of, is that the context, that contextually speaking, it wouldn't imply anything but explain things all the way. And that's one thing I've been hearing from people who've had movie reviews is show don't tell. And so if you, it's almost like if you tell everything, of course they could leave it to their imagination, but that's a novel, and this is a visual piece, so it's like, don't do less of talking and do more of showing, because this is visual. If I want to relay, imagine what something is, um so like given, like, let's say like a character, he's really bad, and I'm watching a movie. Well, one great thing is also do both. Continue to have this narrative that the people are bad, and have the world around the main character produce a narrative. The people respond to his name in fear, like for instance in Daredevil. People didn't know who Wilson Fisk was. They shuddered at the idea of who he was, even the name. Like, he got killed over people confessing his name. And so it just showed like the gravity, the gravitas of his name, and therefore his identity. And it kind of, I want to say during the later seasons, it kind of trails back to that name, like that. Well, not so much the name anymore, but more so just like the representation aspect, like Kingpin. He's no longer, we're not no longer attributing him by name, attributing him by a new title, and reinforcing that title as Kingpin through, I guess, just dubbed under that title. But regardless of that, this movie was pretty good. I like to think I'd give it a 7 out of 10, and I'm like, sevens aren't bad. I just they did a lot of like explaining, and I'm not saying that's bad. There was times where it was actually very helpful. Um, it was funny because near the end where like it was like, where is all her aggression coming from? And not so much aggression, but just her strong personality. Because since this is a movie about what men think, you think this would have to do with quite the opposite, that the female doesn't know what the man thinks. And so, given the title, she now has an opportunity to know what they think. And so, I like how the more so organic approach, and I want to say in the other gender swap, and even culturally different movie, it was very similar. A person who was very in themselves, in their head, they interact with the world around them, and are not the they are the agent of change, rather than the world changing them, and rather than the world respond. I guess you could say the world still responds to him, but he's more so the agent of change. And as he's changed, he not only sees the females respond around him, but it also helps him to understand them far more than he would have if he was just in himself. And the same lesson, from what I remember from that older movie, it still kind of applies here. It just applies in a different context, and that context isn't bad. The context, from what I remember, is not bad. It's pretty good actually. There's even funny moments, comedic moments, but there's times where she thinks about the long run. Like, there's one scene where she's in a battle of strategy and wits, and she uses this to her advantage. And I think and she thinks more so about the long term than the short victory at hand. And I think that's great, because she takes note of people and their perceptions of what they think she should do versus her own actions, and I think that's great. And this is wise. That's very smart. And at the very end, very interesting, very interesting. Um, for me, I wasn't expecting too much of it. But I love that in the end she learns a pivotal lesson in her role as a individual in respect to other people, and she learns to be a fuller, a more wholesome human being, especially as she responds to the environment around her and the people that engorge that environment, and that leads her to make her a better choice for her own sake, but not really compared to her in the beginning, where she made her own choices and didn't really care about the consequences in effect to others. But and that might be really sorry. I guess that's a spoiler. That's not too bad. I'm sorry. This is 11 minutes. I liked it. I'd give it a 7 because it's not extremely profound. Like stuff like Metal Gear Solid would be to me extremely profound. But this is very nice. It's very helpful. It's very well done. Um, it hints at politics, like some things like identity politics, but at the same time, and it kind of does it in a reverse fashion, where it's like she acknowledges it, but she rejects it because which is really ironic because she wants her position by her own merit rather than a the perception of what other people are impressing upon the authorities for her. So um from what I understand, identity politics is more so like having legislation and laws involved on the basis of a certain person's identity or ethnicity, race, whatever. So it's like you could get a Bugatti or you can get. I mean, I'm counting this as extremely like generalizing, but you could get a particular place or keep a particular place not on your merit but more so your identity, and that doesn't keep companies. That doesn't really keep anything. The only time that would is if that same person with a different identity, you know, who originally wouldn't have gotten it, is also far more talented. That'd be like the only reason is just more so the competence level of that other individuals. Because if it's culturally biased and that person and there's two people who are equally, if not unevenly, or just notably different in terms of their competence and ability and workload and success rate as a particular person of a particular job force or job expertise, their expertise should overlay their identity, their ethnic identity. So even though it'd be nice, like that if there wasn't a cultural bias, and I do think that does play a part. But again, like um, competence matters far more than identity, which is also kind of interesting of the main character, the protagonist's choice later in the story to start taking responsibility for themselves and to be the change that they want to see. Um, and to be smart, to apply the knowledge and wisdom learned throughout merely using basic communication methods, methods and factors such as just merely listening. I think that's amazing. It's wonderful. I know that kind of spoiled it too, but that's all I got. It's a good movie. It's very decent. I wouldn't even say it's just like Best Man's Holiday. I just think in terms of like a favorite that will probably be right next to it. In terms of a preference, um, like if I wanted people to get no, not even because I'm like that would even be a good jumping platform. It's a great sequel. Um, and what men want is a great. It's good. It's very good. I would definitely recommend people to watch it. All right. All right. So yeah, this is not as many as I thought it was gonna be, but it's good enough. All right. Thanks, guys. God bless. Take care. Be well. Be loved. Know you're loved.